And action! I'm also kidding. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our first student panel of Peace 365 for the semester, Peace and Self. Today we've got Mia representing psychology, David representing philosophy, and Lucia representing economics. Let's give them a round of applause. Mia, the floor is yours.
Okay, so I'm going to start by making a quick summary of what Selma Amdani said in her panel. So she talked about peace psychology in general and also structural violence and how you had to understand the root of the problem in order to fix it and not put ephemeral solutions, and to take context, the context of the country and everything. Yeah. So I was intrigued by the concept of peace building, which she mentioned. So I looked into it and I found that an emerging way to build peace was through art and art therapy. So it can help with violence prevention, peace building, and trauma healing. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. So what does art do in the context of peace? Well, it makes activism accessible to the masses. So people are most likely to get involved with art and culture than more intellectual stuff, I guess. And it opens the dialogue for more people to get in. And it also creates empathy for reconciliation between people in a larger sense, for countries and peace between nations. So one thing I found was that looking at studies was that reconstructing peace through art also had risks, because often organizations still have a little bit of that colonial lens, so they try to help with what they think is going to be good for the country, but they really have to take into account the context and listen to the victims of the country. Yeah. Also, art can help people express themselves, kind of evading censorship, because in some countries where everything is controlled, I guess, and art maybe less since it's more expressive. So yeah, it can help people rehumanize themselves, their enemies, and find common ground to unite nations. And, yeah.
Thank you, Mia. Next we have David talking about philosophy.
Yes. I'm just trying to get the picture here. Okay. So Daniel talked about Socrates in his life and what he did, and something that stood out for me was when he was talking about how, while everyone was crying around Socrates, he was he wasn't worried about the fact that he was about to die. He's like, I'd rather die, with my beliefs and my opinions known than follow what everyone else says in society. And so I linked that to part of the reading that he gave us, and where it says, our will to doubt can be just as powerfully sapped by an internal sense that societal conventions must have a sound basis, even if we are not exactly sure what this may be, because they have been adhered to by many great people for a long time. So essentially, we doubt any idea that we have against society because we feel like, okay, if this is in place, then it must make sense. We're scared to take that initiative to say, no, this is wrong. What we believe in is it can't be accepted. And so I can personally relate to this, and that's what I want to talk about today, is how I took I guess this norm society imposes on us, and I fought against it myself. So everyone knows about the idea that like if you do certain things in life, let's say you only become a lawyer or a doctor, you're seen as intelligent, you're seen as smart, whereas if maybe you do something else, or at least you'll feel like you're not as smart as someone like that. Like I often got it that just because I was in science, I'm smarter than you automatically. But so what I wanted to talk about is what I did. Anyways, so when I was in high school, I got, I guess, average grades. I found it pretty easy myself. I understood the topics well. But you know, I was like everyone else. You know, I was to think, okay, that guy there, you know, he's getting super high grades, so you know, he's a genius. Everything he does, he gets it. It's just I can never be like him. I can never do anything like him. And so I continued to think like that throughout most of my high school life and a bit of my CEGEP life. So when it came to CEGEP first semester of sciences, my grades were, you know, average. I'm 70s, 80s. I'm like, okay, that's good enough for me because that's all I'll ever reach. And then next semester comes and I find myself, first test in chemistry, I get a 90. I'm saying like, okay, wow, this doesn't make much sense. You know, usually I'm not able to get these grades. But I start to think, why is it that I was able to get these grades like now, all of a sudden? And so I start seeing like, okay, maybe if I start putting a little more effort in this, if I start studying a little more, then maybe I can be different. So I do that, and I keep studying more and more and more and more throughout the semester, and I start getting higher grades. My grades start improving. So I started becoming the very thing that I thought I could never become, which, you know, as society imposed on us, you know, so I guess what I learned from that is that anyone could do anything. You know, when you look at yourself and you think, okay, no, school's not for me. But school is for everyone. It just depends what you want to do in school that differentiates everyone. Anyone could do what I'm doing. I could do what you're doing. It all comes down to how hard you work on that thing. And so I relate that back to what Socrates said because. What was I going to say? Yeah, because you know, just because if someone tells you you can't do something, it doesn't, like, you know, it doesn't mean you can't do it. Right? I know it sounds corny to say, you know, don't give up, do this, you can do anything in the world, but it's true. It's true. If you put your mind to something, then in the end you'll be able to do it. And yeah, you gotta believe in yourself all the time. Yeah.
Lucia.
Yeah, so for me, I'm gonna stand up. No, it's not. You're good. My name's Lucia Titino. If none of you guys know how to spell it, it's right there. So today I'm going to be kind of summarizing what Ahmed said in his panel discussion on does money buy happiness. So just to start off, Ahmed Banki is a professor at Dawson College and he specializes in economics. And in his panel he talks about, he tries to answer the question if money buys us happiness. And many of the points that he makes in his presentation actually relate back to his reading on the same topic, does money buy us happiness? And to do so, he first sets up the idea that utility and happiness are correlated. So his first point in both his presentation and his reading is that as our income rises, our happiness rises as well. And as this positive correlation happens, we become happier because we have more money. However, as time goes on, people may then adapt to their circumstances so that each increment of money soon creates a new standard against which they measure. So this quote at the bottom of the screen is from the reading. And so basically what this says is that since people adapt to their new circumstances of money, their happiness is at, let's say, here. So when their happiness starts to level off, it becomes a new standard for them, and they must, let's say, spend more money to get, let's say, a higher level of happiness. So does like money really buy us happiness? So if we're always, let's say, trying to reach a new level, like how does that work? Because we're always, let's say, going back down and back down and back down. So this level law suggests that money is only a temporary fix from our problems because it's, let's say, it's increasing and then it stops. It increases again and then it stops, and so on and so forth. It's just like a never-ending cycle. And we basically spend money because, and we say like, oh, let's say it's a source of retail therapy. Okay, I'm going shopping, let's say with my girls, like, you know, I have a problem, like, and whatever, I need to boost my mood. Like, I know, like, I've done that before, and like, it doesn't really work. And after, let's say I have done, let's say, retail therapy, like, I go back to, let's say, realizing what I was sad, like, about before. So, for example, I don't know if any of you guys have watched the movie Clueless, but in the movie Clueless, this is the main character. Her name is Cher, and she's well off from her father's company. And no, not her father's company. Her father's a lawyer, so she's well off. And in the movie, she has a problem at school, and she goes shopping. So during her retail therapy, she is all happy because she has new stuff. And then after, while she's walking home, she realizes, all I have is a bag but no solutions to my problems. So that's not really like helpful to us. And why like is this, you might ask, is because for me, in my opinion, is because well, as humans, we're never satisfied with what we have, and we've always been taught that to be better, we have to have, let's say, own the better things, and let's say own the more expensive things, because that's how society has like implemented in our heads is what is better. Or in reality, being better is just a mindset. It's not about what you own or how you dress or, let's say, what car you drive or anything like that. So another thing that he does during his presentation is that he does this experiment called the thought experiment, which I'm sure you guys all remember, like whoever was there. And during this, it kind of like opens our eyes to see, oh wow, like that is really how I act. Like I never realized this until now. So basically, during the thought experiment, he says, so let's say you win a Segway from a drug, or let's say from Roll Up the Rim, you win a Segway. So at first you're all happy, so that's the move before, right here, the little baby that's all excited. And then after the next day, you realize your friend comes up to you and they're like, oh look, I won a car from Roll Up the Rim. And you're like, oh cool, that's great, I just want a Segway. Like, that's not really as good. So you're like this now, because you're in your head, you're like, a car is better than a Segway. Where, why are you thinking like that if the day before you were just happy about it? You should still be happy about your Segway. You know, you want it. So the point of this experiment was to show us that even though we can't have control over other people's happiness and how they react, we have control over ourselves and how we're responsible over ourselves and our emotions. And to tie all his ideas together, he created this utility function. Sorry, all the arrows kind of messed up. So the first one is supposed to go with the C, and the second one is supposed to go with the U. Okay? So he creates this equation, and it's called the utility function, where he basically says, basically shows our happiness in relation to our consumption. So here it says, my level of satisfaction depends on my level of consumption. So for the first function, it is if my consumption increases, my level of happiness will increase as well. And then for the second one, he adds in the consumption of others as a factor of our happiness and my satisfaction. So here he says that if the consumption of others increases, then my satisfaction will decrease. Well, like, why should this be if you should be happy with what you are spending and how you control your life? So all in all, does money really buy us happiness? Well, it depends on the factors. Let's say money can only buy us a temporary happiness if, let's say, you have like an average income and you're going, let's say, day by day, and you have, let's say, your needs and you're able to afford your needs. Whereas like for people that can't, let's say, afford their basic needs, let's say like food or shelter or water, having money does buy them happiness. And he also says, the last point that he says that that money doesn't buy us happiness, but in reality it's, let's say, friends and our coworkers and the people that we surround ourselves with that truly make us happy in life. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lucia. So, do we have any questions? Any questions for Mia? No questions for Mia? Do I have a question for Mia? So you mentioned that art would evade censorship because you said it's more expressive. Could you tell us a little bit more about how art may avoid censorship or may be able to convey messages that if expressed directly would not fly, but if expressed through art might be better received?
So, if people were to express themselves through articles and words, it would have major consequences for them. Whereas with art, it's subjective, and only they can interpret their art, I guess. So that way they can still express their feelings and their anger through art.
So because art is more nuanced than words, because it's not necessarily directly confrontational, because it can mean different things, nobody can say, hey, you're attacking me, because maybe they are, maybe they're not.
Yeah, exactly.
So the liminality, the subjectivity of it allows it to be more easily received or less attacked. Cool. What would you say, there's an expression from an independent filmmaker, I forget his first name, Maines. Maines, he says, tyranny is the deliberate removal of nuance. Tyranny is the deliberate removal of nuance. How would you comment on that expression relative to what you've just said?
Well, I think it's interesting.
Would you agree with the
Yeah.
statement that tyranny is the deliberate removal of
Yeah,
nuance?
because usually it's either all left or all right, and there aren't really, there isn't a place for negotiations or compromise, I guess.
So creating space to not have such polarized arguments, but to have some notion of the in-between and to address that in-between through creative means that open doors and possibilities. Fantastic. Any other questions for Mia? Any other comments you want to make, Mia?
No.
Thank you very much. Any questions for David? No questions for David. I have one story for you, David, and then maybe a comment. And okay, so what you were saying reminded me of a story of my own from back in the day. I was part of a fraternity at my university. It's an international fraternity. There are chapters all over Canada, the United States. We had a leadership training convention in Bowling Green, Ohio. Did I tell you this story? I didn't tell you this. So we drive down to Bowling Green, a bunch of guys from Bishop's University. There's people from all over the States and Canada, and it's the executive of the fraternity that goes down to Bowling Green for this leadership training workshop. So I'm Rush Chairman. My job is to bring new members into the fraternity. So I'm meeting with a whole bunch of other Rush chairmen from Stanford, MIT, various universities. And we're given an exercise. We're given a list of some 250 qualities. Okay? So, okay, take these qualities and come back with the top 10. Tomorrow you have to come back with the top 10 qualities of the members you want to have in your fraternity. So I'm looking at this list, and they're all qualities. And I'm like, how can you really judge a person and they have this quality but not that one? And why is like responsibility more important than punctuality or congeniality or affability? So I'm like, I think, I think I get what's going on here. The next day we go in, and the director says, okay, did you guys do your homework? Yeah. And Buddy from MIT says, okay, yeah, I've got it. So, okay, so go ahead, Buddy from MIT. So, like, so I think number one is responsibility. Responsibility is very important. I think that would be the most important thing. Number two is congeniality. We want friendly members. I think that's the most important thing. I think number three should be this. At someone, and I raise my hand, and the guy running the thing, Mike Pavlovich, goes, yeah, Ivan, we have to say. I said, well, you know what, Mike, I was thinking about it, and I was thinking that you can't really divide a person. Like, a human being is a whole being, and to kind of rank qualities and try to determine which qualities one person has is kind of counterproductive, and what we need to be addressing is the whole person. Buddy from MIT looks at me and goes, anyway, number 5, and keeps going. And Mike goes, hold on there, Buddy from MIT, I think Ivan has a point. And that was the point of the exercise. So in terms of feeling small, I'm from Labrador City, a town of like 3,000 people, then grew up in Sept-Îles, Quebec. Who cares about Sept-Îles, Quebec? And this guy's from MIT. And oh, he's at MIT, and I'm Labrador City, Sept-Îles, you know, small university. But heck, I was right, and he was wrong. So screw you, MIT, right? You know, everybody has innate knowledge. You are who you are, and doesn't matter what label people may put on you or what organization you belong to. Who you are is what matters, not the labels that you put on or other people may put on you. So that's my little story. Would you agree with this statement? Whether you think you will succeed or whether you think you will fail, you're probably right.
Yeah. If you think you're gonna, if you think you're gonna do bad at something, I mean, you're gonna do bad at it probably. I mean, maybe because you prepare for it well enough or something like that. But that it all comes down to mentality in the end. It's just about the thinking that you can do this. Because once you put yourself in that mindset, then slowly but surely everything that you like I don't know, let's say you're working to become more built in gym, for example.
Mm-hmm.
If you think to yourself, okay, yeah, I mean, tons of people have done it before me, and I want to get built like that too. Eventually, it might all be hard at first, but if you keep pushing through with that mindset, you'll achieve that.
So positive mindset leads to positive outcomes.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I don't know. Okay, another little tangent. This one's brief. When I came back from traveling, I decided to be an actor. But I was insecure about becoming an actor. Like, who the hell decides to just be an actor at a late age in life? And I had a friend who was a film director, and she told me, "T'as tout ce qu'il faut. You've got everything it takes." And that stayed with me as a mantra. Whenever I would be insecure about something, I would tell myself, "You've got everything it takes." And that would motivate me. So I share that with you, so maybe you can take it on as a personal mantra and remember that you've got everything it takes to achieve whatever it is you want to achieve in your life. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I do.
Thank you very much, David. That was awesome. Any other questions for David? Any comments you want to make, David?
No, not really.
Well done. Thank you very much. Any questions for Lucia? Lucia, do you think it's worthwhile to compare yourself to others?
No, definitely not.
Definitely not. Who should you be comparing yourself to?
Yourself, 100%.
So you compare yourself to yourself. What does that mean?
Well, I had this English exam where basically we looked at Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules of Life, and one of his rules, rule number 4, everyone wants to look up, is compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not to someone else who someone else is today. And in his chapter, he basically says, why would you compare yourself to someone else when they may be doing something that is unattainable to you? Because everyone is good at different things. So why go and try to get something that you can't when try to do something that you could? Because doing something that you can't just leads to like resentment, and like you're always gonna be pushing yourself down and like, oh, you're not good enough, blah blah blah. So yeah, definitely not. You compare yourself to who you are, not to someone else's.
So using the Segway example, yesterday I didn't have a Segway.
Yeah, exactly.
Today I have a Segway, yeah. But he has a BMW. Good for him. I have a Segway now, which I didn't have. So I'm happy with my Segway.
You should be happy with what you have, not with what other people have.
You should be happy with what you have, not with what other people have. Excellent. Do you know what sympathetic appreciation is, and what do you think of it?
I'm going to be honest, I'm not sure what that is.
Anybody, sympathetic appreciation? What might it be? Nick, what do you think?
Oh, man. So, what was it again? Sympathetic
Sympathetic appreciation, yeah.
I guess, yeah, absolutely. To see a friend succeed and to be happy for them. That's what I'd say.
And if we can extend our notion of friendship towards anybody, then to get a rush out of anybody succeeding is kind of a cool thing. It's like, all right, look at that dude do that wicked jump. Yeah, super. Oh, you got a job? Yeah, awesome. You know, you passed your exam? Yeah. So this is kind of an interesting way to kind of enjoy everybody's successes as well as our own, is to have this sympathetic appreciation rather than be resentful or comparing ourselves to others, to appreciate our own successes, but also to enjoy the successes of others. And if we enjoy everybody's success, then somebody's always succeeding, so we may always be happy to a certain extent, knowing that someone is always doing something good in the world, someone is always succeeding somehow, and we can derive a sense of enjoyment from that. What would you say to that, Lucia?
I agree 100%.
Yeah? Want to add anything to it, or are you good?
I just thought of something that
Go for it, yeah.
I forgot.
You forgot? Is it back now?
Sorry?
Still gone? Is it still
It's
gone?
gone.
Yeah, the jump, or the passing the test, or enjoying other people's successes?
Well, I think we should just like be happy for other people. It's like the thing with what Ahmed said in his presentation about the segue. That okay, let's say your friend want a car, be happy for them. Don't be like, oh, like I'm jealous of you. Be like, oh, let's go out for a ride in your car, or let's take turns on my Segway. I don't know.
Excellent.
Like, be happy for one another.
Excellent. What's the first rule of improv? Who's done improv? Never say no. Exactly. Never say no. Yes and. Right? So instead of having this conflict, yes and. So add and go with the flow, right? Never, he has a car, I don't have a car. You have a car? Great. Let's go for a ride. Yes and. Very nicely done. Let's give him a round of applause. Super. Nicely done. Thank you all very much.